Intensive warfare raged during World War II in the icy lands of Alaska. On one flank, the Imperial Japanese Army was determined to extend its empire. On the other side, the ragged soldiers of the Alaska Natives, draftees who knew the land, and were determined to battle to their last breath to defend it. In 1942, the Alaska Territorial Guard, ATG, was formed with a population of about 6,300 Alaska Natives, serving without pay. These brave people patrolled the territory's coastline, gathered information on Japanese forces, and fought alongside Allied troops in the Aleutian Islands campaign. The Alaska Territorial Guard's ATG contributions to the war were priceless, and their heroism helped to influence the battle in Alaska. But their story is more than just a military tale. It is a story of resilience, courage, and the enduring spirit of the Alaska Native people. Welcome to a new episode of the Native Journals. Today's edition explores how Native Americans protected Alaska during WWII, after the Japanese invaded the Aleutian Islands. Before we continue, please remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on more exciting stories like this one. Before the Alaska Territorial Guards existed, some reasons led to its creation, one of which was the invasion by the Japanese at the Aleutian Islands. In June 1942, the Japanese army raided the Aleutian Islands of Kiska and Attu. That would be the first time a foreign country occupied American land since the 1812 war. This invasion frightened and alarmed the Americans, and put forward concerns about the exposure of Alaska to further Japanese attacks. Also, the U.S. Army redistributed the Alaska National Guard's units out of Alaska to Washington State in 1941. There was a lack of United States military soldiers in Alaska. Only about 2,000 U.S. soldiers were stationed in Alaska during the Japanese invasion period. This was because Alaska was not a state at the time and was not regarded as a significant priority for military protection. Another reason that led the Alaska Territorial Guards was that they had unique skills and knowledge regarding hunting and tracking. The United States military saw these skills as priceless in defending Alaska against the Japanese, thinking their control of the Aleutians would prevent a possible amalgamation of forces by the Americans and Soviet Union that would bring about future attacks through the Kuri Island. The Japanese invaded them. Also, the United States feared the islands could be used as grounds to undertake an extensive aerial invasion of West Coast cities like San Francisco, Seattle, and Anchorage. Most military historians have the belief that the Japanese intrusion of the Aleutians was a diversionary or distraction attack during the Battle of Midway that ought to extract the U.S. Pacific Fleet from Midway Atoll, as it started at the same time, under one commander, Isoroku Yamamoto. The Japanese also considered establishing air and naval bases in the Aleutian Islands. The Aleutian Islands are a chain of islands extending from Alaska to Japan. By creating bases in the Aleutians, the Japanese could extend their reach into the North Pacific and threaten U.S. shipping and supply lines. June 3rd, 1942, the Japanese threw bombs at the Dutch Harbor naval structures and blasted Army facilities at Fort Meeks the next day. On June 6th, 3 days later, the Japanese intruded and occupied Kiska Island, where all the 10 Navy personnel protecting the island were taken captive. Then, on June 7, the Japanese vigorously landed at Holt's Bay on Attu Island, taking 42 Anangan as convicts and detaining them in a schoolhouse for questioning. Watching the world powers Europe and the South Pacific actions during the Second World War, the Alaskans never saw an invasion coming. During the last months of the Second World War, the Japanese lobbed a last-ditch effort to threaten Americans by sending 9,000 balloon bombs on the jet stream onto the mainland. The guards saw the balloons, shot them, and demobilized them. When the Alaskans were hit with a shock concerning the Japanese invasion, it became a wake-up call that they had to respond to it. Some worked in defense-related industries, such as shipbuilding and aircraft construction. Others volunteered their time and resources to support the war effort. Many decided to serve in the military, including the Alaska Territorial Guard, a civilian militia unit. There were over 10,000 Alaskans who served in the military. Now, who are these guards? The Alaska Territorial Guards, ATG, also known as the Eskimo Scouts, was established in August 1942 by the U.S. Army, the military reserve forces composed of Alaska Native volunteers. The Guard comprised 6,300 Indigenous men and women, aged 12 to 80. 107 communities came together to form this body. They came mainly from the Yupok and Inupiat, people living along the Bering Sea and Arctic coastline, and from Tsimshian, Akrut, Haida, Athabaskan, and Tlingit communities. The Eskimo Scout was under the authority of the territorial governor, Ernest Gruening, who served as a commander-in-chief. Everyone on the Guard took an oath to obey the governor's orders. The Guard's adjutant general directly assisted him. J.P. Williams, the headquarters, was located in the territorial capital, Juneau. Alaska Territorial Guard was the first combined military unit in the United States, with Alaska Natives serving alongside white Americans. Its members were assigned different responsibilities, including patrolling the coastline, guarding strategic installations, and conducting search and rescue operations. They also played a significant role in the United States military in Alaska, providing logistical aid and working as guides and interpreters. The Guard was not ruled by gender discrimination, as even women were allowed to join the Alaska Territorial Guards. The Guard had 27 women. Although most women served as nurses at the field hospital in Kotzebue, at least one served the Guard's primary mission alongside men. This woman was Laura Beltswright of Haycock. She was recognized for being the best sharpshooter in her company. The Alaska Territorial Guard worked with others, and had those who served alongside them. Many worked them, providing equipment and supplies to the quartermaster, including food services, repair work, etc. A Major Marston, estimated 20,000 Alaskans who materially participated in the Guard's activities in his western area alone. The Guard soldiers were given a uniform, a rifle each, an Army training manual, snowshoes, and other kits. These Sentinels were not paid for joining the Guards. They learned military drills and how to utilize communication systems. The Guard even used military ranks, except for some, though. Their primary mission was to patrol the rugged and comprehensive Alaskan coastline and provide early warnings of any Japanese activity. Chief Peter Kaliforski, a Tlingit elder from southeast Alaska, was an outstanding Alaskan leader in organizing the Alaska Territorial Group. He was a strong supporter of Native Alaskan participation in the war effort, and he used his influence to recruit volunteers and start up Guard units. Kaliforski also worked closely with the United States military to ensure that Alaska Natives were treated fairly and with regard. Another striking Native Alaskan leader involved in organizing the Alaskan Territorial Guard was Captain Robert E., a Yupik Eskimo from the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. He was a First World War veteran and a respected leader in the Yupik community. Robert also used his revered position to compel volunteers and organize the Guard unit. He worked closely with the United States military to develop training programs and logistical support for Native Alaskan Guard units. Other Native Alaskan leaders helped to play essential roles, like translating military documents and instructions into Alaskan Native languages and delivering cultural training to United States military personnel. They also helped to build trust and cooperation between Alaska Natives and the U.S. military, It was pertinent to the success of the Guard and the protection of Alaska during the Second World War. The members of the Guards were trained in basic infantry skills, including weapons handling, patrolling, and marksmanship. They were also trained in winter combat and survival techniques. Supervised by the U.S. Army personnel, Alaska Territorial Guard's training was done at different locations in Alaska, like Fort Greely, Fort Richardson, and Camp Sustina. The Guard was deployed to different places in Alaska during the Second World War. They helped safeguard resources and pertinent infrastructure and gathered intelligence on Japanese movements. The Guards were deployed to the Aleutian Islands in 1942 to help defend against Japanese invasion. They were deployed 1943 to Pribilof Island to safeguard the fur seals from Japanese poachers. In 1944, the Alaska Territorial Guard was deployed to the Yukon River Valley to build and maintain airfields and roads. Then finally, they were deployed to the Bering Sea coast to monitor for Japanese vessels and torpedoes. The Guards made many contributions to battles and campaigns during World War II, 1943. The Alaska Territorial Guards were part of the Battle of Attu. That is one of the bloodiest battles of the Aleutian Islands campaign. The Guards helped U.S. Army troops navigate the rugged landscape and locate Japanese positions. The Guards' snipers also played a vital role in antagonizing and disrupting Japanese forces. Also, in 1943, the Guards unit was part of the U.S. Army force that forayed into Kiska Island in the Aleutian Islands. The Japanese had already withdrawn from Kiska before the U.S. invasion, but the Guards aided in clearing the island of any remaining Japanese squads. The Soviet Union also is not left out of those who benefited from the Alaska Territorial Guard. The Guards played a significant role in protecting the Lend-Lease program, which provided essential supplies to the Union during World War II. The airfield and coastal defense site along the Alaska-Siberia air route were under their watch. These routes were used to transport Lend-Lease supplies to the Soviet Union. The soldiers defended an Alaskan village called Platinum, South Kwethluk, an abode to a mine that supplied the sole source of a particular metal in the Western Hemisphere. The Guards also stockpiled survival supplies along conveyance routes essential for Allied American forces. Prominent officers led them from Alaska natives, using local dog sleds to move between military structures. Due to the war, more were downed Allied aircraft and ships on the Aleutian Island and Bering Sea during that period. The Alaska Territorial Group conducted search-rescue operations to find them. They navigated these areas' treacherous terrain and weather conditions to locate downed aircraft and vessels and rescue their crew. The Alaska soldiers were competent at gathering information on Japanese activities in Alaska. The Guards used their knowledge of the land and language to communicate with local occupants and to gather intelligence on the Japanese battalion movement and fortifications. They also played a vital role in monitoring Japanese radio communication. The Guards were able to intercept and interpret Japanese messages, which provided beneficial intelligence to the United States military leaders. The Alaska Territorial Guards executed patrols in remote areas of Alaska to guard against the Japanese invasion. Their patrols were often precarious and strenuous. They had to battle with extreme weather conditions, rugged terrain, and the likelihood of encountering Japanese forces. But in all, they were able to achieve their goal. Although the Alaska Territorial Guard soldiers achieved their goals and mission, they still encountered some challenges. The soldiers were often deployed to remote and risky locations in Alaska. For instance, they were frequently deployed to the Aleutian Islands to help protect against Japanese incursion. The Aleutian Islands are known for extreme weather conditions, including high winds, fog, and rain. They had to learn to survive in these conditions while safeguarding against Japanese forces. The soldiers of the Guard were always deployed for long periods, which separated them from their families. Most of them were married, and it must have been difficult for them and their families. Also, because they were unpaid, they incurred financial hardship and the constant threat of danger. The families often live in remote areas with limited service and support access. Financial hardship makes it challenging for them to get the help they require. Also, the soldiers faced discrimination because they were Native American. They experienced this discrimination in both their military life and their civilian life. This was terrible because they were sometimes denied service at restaurants and hotels. The legacy of the Guard is one of patriotism, sacrifice, and bravery. The Alaska Territorial Guard was a unique and eclectic organization whose members played an essential part in defending Alaska during World War II. Furthermore, concerning their military contribution, the Guard had a pivotal impact on the Alaskan culture. The Alaska Territorial Guard supported promoting unity and cooperation among the heterogeneous people of Alaska. It also helped in the preservation of the Alaska Native culture and traditions. Ultimately, the invasion of Alaska was unsuccessful. The United States military was able to reclaim the Aleutian Islands by August 1943, but the invasion did operate to divert the United States' attention from the Battle of Midway. The invasion by the Japanese was unpopular amongst the Japanese people. Notably, many Japanese felt that the invasion could have been a better use of time and resources and would lead to more casualties. In 1947, the Alaska Territorial Guard was disbanded, and in 1966, the state of Alaska awarded a medal to all Alaska Territorial Guard members. Although it took about 6 decades, good never goes unrewarded. The Alaska Territorial Guard veterans and those who supported them petitioned the United States government. They prevailed in passing Alaska's first anti-discrimination law to end segregation of its indigenous people. In 2010, the United States acknowledged the veterans for their services. It gave them formal veteran status when President George W. Bush signed a bill into law that mandated the Defense Secretary to issue honorable discharges to the Alaskan Natives. The heritage of the Alaska Territorial Guard remains worthy of celebration and remembrance. The Alaska Territorial Guard members were true patriots who courageously helped their country and fought courageously to defend the nation's territorial integrity. And that is all for today's video. Thank you for watching till this point. Remember to like the video and subscribe to our channel so you get notified each time we upload a new video like this one.